Ox spoke to the guards as Raker felt restraint spring from the chair and secure him to its surface. "Leave us now. Don't come back until I call for you." Raker was surprised but not scared. This wasn't something they had ever heard of the humans doing. However, methods evolve constantly. It was just more of the human mind games, nothing more. He stared at the human while he made adjustments to the machine and began to hook it up to his body, rolling up his sleeves to put in the double IV feed. The head restraint made it impossible to bite the human as he worked. A pity. He listened as the machine whirred and clicked, adjusting to his body and feeding the appropriate chemicals into him to combat whatever imbalances it detected. Raker spoke up as the human stopped, his work complete. "I will be sure that my brothers take off your hands for touching me, filth. And that will be the best thing to happen to you when they take this." Raker was cut off as the back of the human's hand connected with his face. Stars flashed across his vision. The human spoke in a hushed, stern tone. "General, now would be a good time to shut your fucking mouth, unless it's to answer one of my many questions." Raker, filled with rage, straining at his binds. "How dare you, Stree?" He was cut off again, this time with a closed fist to his snout. The human's voice filled his ears again, in the same bored yet icy tone. "General, I must insist you follow my rules, or this will get very unpleasant very fast." "Well, let's be honest, it's going to anyway, but the less annoyed I am, the quicker this will go. I know who you are, I know what you and your race have done. I have every detail seared into my mind. I have treated the reclaimed prisoners of war, the combat casualties, the rape victims. And with every one I lost a little bit of my soul." The human stared into Raker's eyes again, waiting for him to speak. Raker figured he would bide his time. He didn't need to waste his breath on this worm. The human turned his back to Raker and walked toward something out of his vision. He talked as Raker blinked away his pain. Raker would kill this human slowly for such disrespect when he got out. Of this, the general was sure. "You know, at the beginning of this war, when you sacked the 18 garden worlds of the Eden system, I imagine you thought we were weak and an easy conquer. I don't blame you, really. Killing local defense forces and civilians must have been as simple as reaping wheat. Can you believe that we still treated your wounded when we found them?" Raker heard the rattle of metal on metal as the human returned, coming into sight with a cart. From his vantage point he could see it was loaded with both human and Clonian surgical devices. The human wheeled it up next to him and adjusted it until he seemed satisfied. "I was even the one who pioneered much of the study into Clonian medicine, so we could help those wounded we recovered. After all, we were still human. I maintained that we must not let the atrocities of war affect that, no matter if the enemy wasn't exactly human themselves." The human laughed. It sounded more hollow than Raker thought possible. It chilled him to his bones. "Of course, that was at the beginning, when I was still human. Before we started to push back and reclaim some of our worlds, or what was left of them." Raker knew very well the violence perpetrated on those worlds. He had ordered most of it done himself. It was standard practice. Establish camps, hang the men from every tree and lamppost, and begin the breeding program immediately to replace any lost soldiers. Their extensive genetic alteration let them breed with any and all species. Torture was an authorized pastime, and he often loved to walk amongst his soldiers and see what wonderful games they could come up with. He distinctly remembered one where they would gouge out children's eyes and race them while placing bets. The human continued, pressing a button out of Raker's view. Raker felt the chair begin to lean back and straighten out, becoming more of a table, lowering down until he was roughly at the human's waist. He heard the EKG in the machine begin to register his increased heart rate. The human's voice droned on. So after I cut out about the 40th abomination from one of those poor women in the breeding pits, I think I snapped. Though you couldn't tell, my soul had died. I don't remember walking into the aid station and taking the first Clonian prisoner into the isolation room or what I did thereafter. However, they tell me by the end of the day some of the staff had noticed him and 3 others were missing. When they found me, I was soaked in teal blood, working on the last one. I had tortured each one for hours, removing organs, stimulating nerves, blowing out eardrums, cauterizing eye lobes. When I couldn't keep them alive much longer, I would remove their genitalia and force it down their throat to asphyxiate them. Raker felt his stomach churn. This couldn't be real. The human was lying. It was just an intimidation tactic. He had heard no such thing when inquiring about the condition of prisoners through the diplomatic channels and the spy network. He jerked slightly when the human leaned over him, staring with those cold eyes. The color Clonian eyes turned after death. The human held a simple cauterizing scalpel. Now the funny thing is, according to the laws of my species, I should have been locked up, even killed, for what I had done. And I most surely would have if it had not been for Commander Green. He was the one who read through the admittedly gruesome reports I had recorded during my psychosis-induced rage and found I had recovered valuable data from your men. You see, it turned out they thought I wanted information and spilled all sorts of good things such as troop movements and base locations. Raker followed the movement of the scalpel as the human lowered it to his still uniformed chest. He clamped his mouth shut on a scream as the laser burned through the Clonian symbol on his right breast, and the human began to etch the symbol into his skin, using his uniform as a template. He would not cry out. He still had his pride. He could hear the heart monitors beeping pick up its pace, and the pain dulled slightly as the machine began to deliver a mild anesthetic. He still felt the pain, but he wasn't in danger of passing out anymore. Raker wasn't exactly sure if that was a good thing. All the while, the human rattled on. So, just as I'm about to be hauled away, Commander Green comes over and dismisses the guards. He tells me, "Son, I don't know how far gone you are, or if there is anything left inside you. I don't even know if I should trust you around people. However, you're the first one that has been able to get these bastards to talk. Now, I know the convention doesn't allow these things to go on, but if you agree to work for me, I'll see to it you get to have all the fun you want, so long as you can keep extracting the intel I need. I'll cover you so long as results are made. Deal?" And so we shook on that. Author's name and the link to original text is in the description.